Yeah, thank you, Ben, for the introduction. My name is Benedikt Kölsch, and I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher at Cerema, and I will present my work I've done at my time as a doctoral student and postdoctoral student at the German Aerospace Center, DLR. Yeah, on behalf of myself and my colleague Björn Schierike. So today I would like to give a presentation about combining infrared thermography and acoustic methods, and describing both methods and what the future work and the under development method is to locate air leakages at that point. What's the motivation behind? I mean, we all know that uncontrolled airflow in buildings is responsible for a significant part of heating and cooling energy in buildings, and it's usually measured by the blower door tests. But the knowledge of the leakage location and the size is crucial for future renovations, and it is, however, difficult to detect the leak in combination with the blower door. It's time-consuming and cumbersome. You can use some kind of smoke sticks like this, like showing here. So we used some acoustic approaches at that point, and we assumed that the same path of air, which is going through the building envelope at the friend pressurization methods, is the same. These paths are the same as sound takes, or predominantly at least, for direct leaks. So we put speakers or a convolution of speakers inside the building and some microphone arrays or acoustic cameras outside the building with the approach to identify the leak locations in building envelopes. This has the advantage that it's independent of pressure and temperature differences, and it is possible to scan very large areas at once. So our first approaches and our first setup was to put, as seen here on the left side, on the right side, we put some mid-low frequency speakers and some high frequency speakers in the room inside, sending a white noise signal, and with these two different type of speakers, we are able to give a very broadband signal. And so outside of the building, we put the acoustic camera, which is made of a video camera or some kind of visual camera in the middle, and a ring array of, in our case, 48 microphones with an which are equally spaced around the video camera. So the video camera makes an optical visual image of the scene, so of the facade at that point, and the ring array is able to locate the sound sources at that point and create some kind of acoustical mapping overlaying this visual image, which looks like this. So we have the visual image of this window facade at that point, overlaying with, at that point, the maximum 3 or 4 decibel of maximum sound sources at that point. So showing this as some kind of heat map. So we did some first experiments. I think it's about probably 2 years ago or something, and seeing if this is possible to, at least possible to identify very large leaks. So we opened the window a little bit and trying to see what's happening. So we send a broadband white noise signal inside, and we wanted to expect that the leak would be here on the left window because this was the open one, and we analyzed the signal for different frequency bands, and yeah, we somehow found something here and on the very high frequency parts, but there was something else happening here at the right part of these images, and this was an external disturbing sound source. So if you're working with sound outside, you always have like traffic, so cars passing by, you have airplanes probably, we have construction sites, so you need to deal with all sorts of other sound sources which are disturbing your signal when you're doing the measurement outside. So we recorded the signal inside, so we exactly knew what signal we are sending inside, and of course we recorded the signal outside. And if we have both signals, we were able to filter out the disturbing sources outside and only get the sound sources with the same kind of signal structure outside. So this looks like, so after filtering out, it looks like the part on the right side here. And these parts here, you see perfectly the open window on on the left part here. So you see, we were able to detect it. So further, we put some like small plastic stripes into the window gasket to simulate reproducible leaks or defects in the window insulation at that point. And we're trying to detect this, and if this was possible, so we put it in the middle window on the very right side, and we were able to detect it from very small or very low frequencies up until very high frequencies of 20 kilohertz. And this 20 kilohertz is some kind of the boundary, the lower boundary of the ultrasonic frequencies. So even here, we were able to distinguish between these very small leaks in between these plastic stripes here at some kind. So we were able to give some kind of structure of the leaks. Okay, I mean, you may say, okay, that's nice. You do it on one window, very close to the window. You know where the leaks are. It's some kind of laboratory setup. Great that it works, but does it really work in the field or in a very large scale? So last year we did a very large measurement campaign in a project where we investigated a building complex in the southern part of Germany, which has the advantage that we have a lot of different kind of facades and building ages on a very close together. So we have here this building complex on the right side is built in 2019. The others are built in the 1990s or even older. So all these parts, like this part is in different age than the lower part and the right part. So we have different structures, different building types together. And the goal of this project was to get a 3D model of this very complex buildings part, which we have done here, and to make measurements using the acoustic methods and infrared thermography methods at that point. And the thing was here that we didn't know anything about the leakages in the building. So we didn't put any artificial leakages in. We didn't know where the leaks are. So this was very interesting to do this on this new larger scale. So we did the same as in our office building before. We put the speakers inside the building, the microphone areas outside the building. And I will show you some preliminary results here. If you're interested in more results, you're very welcome to attend the AIVC conference in October, where my colleague will give a more detailed presentation about this measurement campaign. But here you see, for example, at the results for different frequencies, and you can really see you have here a meeting room and a door to the outside facade, and you really see that the sound exits at these boundaries between the door and the facade at that point, which is a great result for this method. So further, we did a lot of measurements, so I can really show you one or two pictures here. But this is, for example, one measurement we did at another part of the facade. It looks like typical office building, and we found some source here at that window, and we looked closer to this point at the window, and we found out that there was like some holes in the window frame. So these windows were renewed at some point in the history of the building, but the screws where the old windows were mounted in the facade were already there and were not sealed. So there were some problems with, so the renovation was not done entirely good. And we were able to really find this kind of non-sealed holes from the renovation of these buildings, or giving the same facade, but on a different frequency. We found here some leaks on the one part on the very top, and we put some plow door in and some smoke sticks, and we can really find that this was some cable going through this window, and there was indeed some airflow going through these parts. However, there's sometimes some measurements we have, like on the left side here on the right picture. And this might be some reflection or vibration, because I mean it's not this sound source has been detected on the middle of this window, which is clearly could not be a leak. So still these measurements need to be looked very carefully, and it is at that point very important to have a knowledgeable person who analyzes the images at that point. What was really interesting at that point as well was that it was possible to even locate leaks at the third floor. So until that point, we only like investigate like on the ground floor, on the first floor or something. But here, no, not the second floor. So we have here a distance up until like 12 meters or more, and it was even possible to see defects here in the window gasket, even though it was a very large distance at that point. So to sum that up, I mean, this method has some strengths, some weaknesses. It is possible to measure large scale facade, or like do large scale facades measurements at that point. It is possible to visualize sound sources on the building facade. However, this is an acoustic method, and it's acoustic interferences outside the or acoustic sources outside the building might interfere the measurements. And so far, it's still hard to estimate the leak size. However, we have some indications that it might be related to the wavelength or to the frequency we're analyzing. But to really do this, there needs to be more, or we're on doing more measurements and more research on that. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between leakage, reflection, and vibration. So you really need to be carefully looking at the results. Another measure to visualize leakage, or to visualize leakages on a building facade, is the infrared thermography, which has been used more frequently and is being used more frequently in the building sector. However, it has some constraints, so you need to have some temperature differences between inside and outside, stable temperature differences, no solar radiation, so it's better done in the morning or the evening, or during the heating period in winter, and it's better to have low wind speed. So if you do the infrared thermography, it is sometimes hard to see, okay, if you have like this kind of thermal image, is this leaks, are these things thermal bridges? So you need to be like either use a blower-door combination or be a trained user to distinguish between these things. So the strength of infrared thermography as it is that it's possible to scan very large facades at that point to display the thermal distribution over the facade, but it depends on changes in environmental conditions and about the knowledge of emissivity values of the materials of the facade. And sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between actual leaks and thermal bridges on these images. So if we have both methods visualizing the leaks, possible leaks on the facade, as I said, if you have this like high resolution image on the left side, it's sometimes hard to distinguish if it's like a spot or a leakage spot or a thermal bridge. And here on the right side, you see we made some point cloud measurements, so some 3D measurements of the facade, and we were able to map these the acoustic results on these 3D models at that point. But it's sometimes hard to distinguish between, is this a leakage or noise interference, or is it sound transmission through different materials in the wall? But there's a current project trying to combine these visual images, visual methods at that point. So if you have an image of this windowed facade here, where both methods are taken from, it might be a good idea to combine the acoustic method and the infrared method to clearly detect the leaks. How this is done needs to be elaborated in this new project. So there might be the possibility to just take the maximum values of the infrared image or the measurement from the acoustic camera, so the sound pressure levels. But this might not always be true. I mean, a very more advanced method would be to probably use machine learning for this. I mean, machine learning is very good for processing images if you have enough training data to be able to really find the leaks. However, this needs a lot of training data, so you need to generate them. So this is something which is really under developing, and unfortunately, I couldn't say more about the process behind, but this is because it just started the project, but I'm really curious to see how this might work. So to sum up the possible advantages of combining both methods, the combination would have the potential to identify relevant leaks in the building envelope in large areas, might be less sensitive to weather conditions, or it might be easy to map these leaks on the facade surface. We hope to prioritize leaks using these methods, and it seems to be scalable, and we hope that at the end it might be easy to interpret the results by developing algorithms for the combination at that point. So I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions. And if you have any more questions about the method or about the further projects, you're very welcome to contact my colleague Björn Schiericke from DLR.